Hey, welcome to another episode of Andre Knows Everything. I'm Andre, and this is the show where I take you through the internet to learn about a different topic every week, except for last week. Last week I skipped out because I was depressed. Okay, this week I'm back and I'm ready to roll. I'm going to be talking about something very interesting to me, and that's drugs. Not just any drugs, though. One very particular drugs, LSD, aka acid. Now, I've never done this drug before. Never done acid, never done LSD. There's a lot of drugs that I've never done. They'll come up later on different episodes. But I wanted to talk about LSD because I was hearing some very interesting things about how it was created and how it made its way into the minds, hearts, and tongues of the people in our nation. So let's check out LSD. Let's figure out what it's about, what it is, what it does, and who made it. All right, let's get into it here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and, hit the notification bell, hit the like button. Leave a comment if you've done LSD. All right, I'm on drugs.com. Okay, I assume they know what they're talking about. We're looking at LSD. All right. Oh, common street names. LSD is sold under more than 80 street names, including acid, blotter, acid doses, dots, trips, mellow yellow, window pane, as well as names that reflect the designs on sheets of the blotter paper. For example, purple dragon. Okay, so they got weed strain type of things. LSD, lysergic acid diethylamide. I think that's right. Lysergic acid diethylamide. Oh, so acid's right in there. Wait. Oh, lysergic acid diethylamide. I'm going to cut this out. First synthesized in 1938, is an extremely potent hallucinogen. It is synthetically made from lysergic acid, which is found in ergot, a fungus that grows on rye and other grains. It is so potent, its doses tend to be in the microgram range. Its effects, often called a trip, can be a stimulating, pleasurable, and mind-altering, or it can lead to an unpleasant and sometimes terrifying experience called a bad trip. Okay, I've heard of this. I've seen TV before. In the U.S., LSD is illegal and is classified by the Drug Enforcement Agency as a Schedule I drug, meaning LSD has a high potential for abuse, has no currently accepted medical treatments, and has a lack of accepted safety for use under medical supervision. LSD is produced in crystalline form and then mixed with other inactive ingredients or diluted as a liquid for production in ingestible forms. It is odorless, colorless, and has a slightly bitter taste. LSD is usually found on the streets in various forms. For example, when they say on the streets, I know what they mean, but it seems like I just go out and pick it up. Found in various forms on the blotter paper. So LSD is soaked onto sheets of absorbent paper with colorful designs, cut into small individual dosage units. This is the most common form. This is what you got at Woodstock when you went in the 70s, right? You got that little tab. It comes in thin squares of gelatin, commonly referred to as window panes. I think I've seen these before. Tablet form, so usually small tablets known as microdots or capsules. Liquid on sugar cubes. You can just drip a little drop on a cube. And then a pure liquid form, which may be extremely potent. Some people may inhale LSD through the nose. What? Who's snorting LSD? Or inject it into a vein? If you're shooting up LSD, you got problems. There is no way to predict the amount of LSD that is contained in any form consumed. And then there's other effects. Okay, so that's the basics of LSD. Maybe we'll come back to this particular article to look up the effects. But I wanted to look at the history, okay? Because it said, hang on, let's go back. First synthesized in 1938, right? Why? This is from psychologytoday.com, written in April of 2020. U.S. government mind control experiments. Hypnosis, LSD, and the Unabomber. Project MK Ultra was the CIA's mind control program that used LSD and hypnosis techniques to brainwash individuals. Theodore Kaczynski, also known as the Unabomber, was a participant in one of Henry Murray's experiments at Harvard, where Murray's team bullied, harassed, and psychologically broke down participants. Henry Murray had previously worked for the CIA's predecessor and may have been funded by the clandestine MK-Ultra program. So this MK-Ultra thing is what I had heard about, right? And it's just a program, back in the day where the government, they just bring people in, they go, hey, take some of this, and we're just going to see if we can effectively turn you into a robot killing machine or whatever. A history of ethic breaches. Okay, here we go. The CIA reacted to reports of chemicals used for interrogations and brainwashing in the Soviet Union and the People's Republic of China in the 1940s and 1950s. In response to this national security threat, they developed a series of programs, including MK-Ultra, which is Select Committee on Intelligence and Committee on Human Resources, 1977. From 1953 to 1964, the U.S. government conducted behavioral modification research on people in which they tested, among other things, the utility of hypnosis and LSD for clandestine purposes. Okay. Hypnosis, yeah, I know what hypnosis is. La-di-da-di-da. Hypnosis. The CIA's MK-Ultra program consisted of 162 CIA-backed projects at 80 institutions with 185 researchers. Most of the records of the program were destroyed on the orders of the CIA director Richard Helms in 1973, but some that were missed in the destruction were found in 1977. Okay, I think these are this part is the sources. The program was conducted specifically to have a structured way to finance the behavioral research related to brainwashing without drawing negative public attention or ethical questions from the mainstream scientific community. The studies examined brainwashing and interrogations included field applications after laboratory studies. What were some of these studies like? That's exactly what I want to know. One theme is that many were devoid of informed consent and appropriate ethical oversight. Ewan Cameron attempted to erase memories by repeated electroshock treatments, forcing months of drug-induced sleep, and repeatedly administering LSD to his patients in Montreal. The drug commonly known as LSD is a serotonin agonist that creates distorted visual perceptions. Many of these patients came to the clinic to be treated for moderate depression and instead were subjected to months of horrific exploitation. So, if you're ever wondering why I haven't gone to a therapist personally, it's for this reason. I don't know what's going on behind those doors, dog. Okay, I don't know where you're gonna take me or what you're gonna put into me, but I'm not signing up. That's a joke. I'll go. As part of the MK-Ultra program, a CIA agent hired prostitutes to slip LSD into people's drinks and noted what happened through a two-way mirror. In 1953, Dr. Frank Olson was given LSD by CIA agents without his knowledge and died as a result. Oh, yikes. CIA agents administered LSD to other citizens they met at bars and elsewhere. The agents invited the citizens to safe houses in San Francisco and New York City where they were administered drugs without consent. If somebody's giving you drugs for free or giving you anything for free, all right, take that with a big old grain of salt. What are you doing? What's going on? What are your motives? All right, what do you want from me? You don't know me, so why are you trying to give me stuff? And it's not just like creeps, who are out there like drugging girls' drinks and stuff like that. It's the fucking CIA. The CIA still exists. They're out there. They're in Calico. Where is it? You know what I'm talking about. But the CIA is a government agency that still exists, and aside from this being ethically wrong, I don't see why they would have necessarily stopped doing any of this stuff. They're just slipping people hardcore drugs just to see what happens, and then they're taking them to places and then administering more and more and more just to keep experimenting. Science, yay. Prisoners, terminally ill cancer patients, and American soldiers were also used for some of the studies, and some proposed studies sought to produce brain concussions with sound waves. Much of the research targeted the development of a truth serum, that would facilitate compliance in an interrogation. So the government is looking for something that can just get people so messed up that they are going to 100% of the time tell the truth while they're on this substance. And LSD is just one of the first ones that they tried, and they tried it a lot, it looks like. The National Institute of Mental Health funded some of the studies conducted on drug-addicted prisoners. LSD was administered to over 1,100 soldiers in the U.S. Army. According to the U.S. Senate's Select Committee to Study Governmental Operations with Respect to Intelligence Activities, these experimental programs originally included testing of drugs involving witting human subjects and culminated in testing using unwitting, non-volunteer human subjects. These tests were designed to determine the potential effects of chemical or biological agents when used operationally against individuals unaware that they had received a drug. Okay, let me go to history.com because they have a little bit more on this project. But it's just so fascinating to me that somebody developed this drug, right? And then the CIA got their hands on it, and they were like, hey, this is pretty neat. You know what we could use this for? A lot of fucked up shit. Let's do it. And then they did it for like 10 years. Okay, so let me just see how this stuff got started. In the 1950s and 1960s, the height of the Cold War, the United States government feared that the Soviet, Chinese, and North Korean agents were using mind control to brainwash U.S. prisoners of war in Korea. You know, standard Cold War stuff. In response, Alan Dulles, director of the CIA, approved Project MK-Ultra in 1953. The covert operation aimed to develop techniques that could be used against Soviet bloc enemies to control human behavior with drugs and other psychological manipulators. So first, it sounds pretty cool, right? It's like, hey, those bad guys over there are messing with our people. We got to find a way to stop them. And so in order to do that, we're just going to randomly give citizens all kinds of crazy, fucked up drugs and try to mind control them and take them to safe houses and keep them prisoner. The problem involved more than 150 human experiments involving psychedelic drugs, paralytics, and electroshock therapy. Sometimes the test subjects knew they were participating in a study, but at other times they had no idea, even when the hallucinogens started taking effect. Many of the tests were conducted at universities, hospitals, or prisons in the United States and Canada. Most of these took place between 1953 and 1964, but it's not clear how many people were involved in the tests. The agency kept notoriously poor records and destroyed most MK-Ultra documents when the program was officially halted in 1973. So all those documents got destroyed, but then when they were found a little bit later in 1977, as we read in the other article. LSD. The CIA began to experiment with LSD under the direction of agency chemist and poison expert Sidney Gottlieb. He believed the agency could harness the drug's mind-altering properties for brainwashing or psychological torture. Under the auspices of Project MK-Ultra, the CIA began to fund studies at Columbia University, Stanford University, and other colleges on the effects of the drug. After a series of tests, the drug was deemed too unpredictable for use in counterintelligence. They couldn't pin it down. They couldn't reorganize the LSD to make it do what they wanted it to do. People were just tripping out. And then they're also shocking them and doing all kinds of other crazy shit. That's definitely making this trip way worse than it would have been. MK-Ultra also included experiments with MDMA, heroin, mescaline, barbiturates, methamphetamine, I know how to say that word, and psilocybin. Okay. Oh, Operation Midnight Climax. Okay. Operation Midnight Climax was an MK-Ultra project in which government-employed prostitutes lured unsuspecting men to CIA safe houses where drug experiments took place. Can't trust these pretty ladies, you know. The CIA dosed the men with LSD and then, while at times drinking cocktails behind a two-way mirror, watched the drug's effects on the men's behavior. Recording devices were installed in the prostitutes' rooms, disguised as electrical outlets. Most of the Operation Midnight Climax experiments took place in San Francisco and Marin County, California, and in New York City. The program had little oversight, and the CIA agents involved admitted that a freewheeling, party-like atmosphere prevailed. Yeah, because CIA agents, as cool as you might think they are, they're just regular dudes, okay? They're just regular dudes out here going to bars every night going, she's hot, he looks dumb, he's an idiot, let's drug them, let's drug him, let's drug her, let's drug them, let's bring them back to the house, let's fuck them. I don't know, I don't know what they're doing, but but they were having fun drugging people, which is like not the coolest thing you could possibly be doing. An agent named George White wrote to Gottlieb in 1971. Of course, I was a very minor missionary, actually a heretic, but I toiled wholeheartedly in the vineyards because it was fun, fun, fun. Where else could a red-blooded American boy lie, kill, cheat, steal, deceive, rape, pillage with the sanction and blessing of the All-Highest, the President? And then there's the death of Frank Olson. Okay, here we go. Ken Kesey and other MK Ultra participants. Ken Kesey, author of the 1962 novel One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I've seen that movie, volunteered for the MK Ultra experiments with LSD while he was a college student at Stanford University. Kesey later went on to promote the drug, hosting LSD-fueled parties that he called acid tests. Acid tests combine drug use with musical performances by bands, including the Grateful Dead, and psychedelic effects such as fluorescent paint and black lights. These parties influenced the early development of hippie culture and kickstarted the 1960s psychedelic drug scene. Other notable people who reportedly volunteered for CIA-backed experiments with LSD include Robert Hunter, the Grateful Dead lyricist Ted Kaczynski, better known as Unabomber, and James Joseph Whitey Bulger, the notorious Boston mobster. This is fascinating. I didn't realize that if the CIA hadn't introduced LSD into all these crazy people, all these people's systems, including some of these famous people, that they are the ones who started the entire psychedelic drug scene. If they hadn't brought LSD to these people, if they hadn't kidnapped them and done all this shit or whatever, then it's very possible that it would have just been weed. no mushrooms or anything. Okay, so this is all pretty fascinating, right? And then this is how it ended. The Church Committee. In 1974, New York Times journalist Seymour Hersh published a story about how the CIA had conducted non-consensual drug experiments and illegal spying operations on U.S. citizens. His report started the lengthy process of bringing long-suppressed details about MKUltra to light. The following year, President Ford, in the wake of the Watergate scandal and amid growing distrust of the U.S. government, I wonder why, set up the United States President's Commission on CIA Activities within the United States to investigate illegal CIA activities, including Project MKUltra and other experiments on unsuspecting citizens. The commission was led by Vice President Nelson Rockefeller and is commonly referred to as the Rockefeller Commission. Is the Rock. The Church Committee, helmed by Idaho Democratic Senator Frank Church, was a larger investigation into the abuses of the CIA, FBI, and other U.S. intelligence agencies during and after the resignation of President Richard Nixon. The Church Committee delved into plots to assassinate foreign leaders, including Cuban dictator Fidel Castro and Congolese independence leader Patrice Lumumba. It has also uncovered thousands of documents related to MKUltra. These revelations resulted in Ford's 1976 executive order on intelligence activities that prohibited experimentation with drugs on human subjects, except with the informed consent in writing and witnessed by a disinterested party of each such human subject. So before 1976, you didn't have to get any consent. You didn't have to do any of that. That's wild. And the CIA was just going willy-nilly drugging people up. So let's go back real quick to the drugs.com article, because I kind of didn't look at the effects. I assumed that the MKUltra experiments were going to let me know a little bit more about that, but they didn't. So let's just go through the effects of LSD real quick. LSD is a mind-altering drug. It is thought LSD causes its characteristic hallucinogenic effects via interaction with the serotonin receptors in the brain. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter that helps control your behavior and mood, govern your senses, and moderates your thoughts. Yeah, serotonin. I wish I had more. The physical effects of LSD are unpredictable from person to person. Usually, the first effects of the drug, when taken by mouth, are felt 30 to 45 minutes after taking it, peak at 2 to 4 hours, and may last 12 hours or longer. That's too long. I don't think I like the 12-hour thing. I like it messing with my serotonin, but I don't like the 12 hours. Use by the intravenous route will produce a much quicker action, usually within 10 minutes. Effects include hallucinations, distorted visual perception of shapes and colors, Altered sounds, anxiety and depression, flashbacks, a return of the trip experience days or months later. Rapid heart rate, increased body temperature, and high blood pressure, as well as dilated pupils. Extreme changes in mood can occur. If taken in large enough doses, the drug produces delusions and visual hallucinations. Overdose can lead to severe psychosis. Death is often due to a direct injury while under LSD influence. There is no known lethal dose of LSD. Interesting. The physical effects can also include nausea, loss of appetite, increased blood sugar, difficulty sleeping, dry mouth, tremors, seizures, looking like this guy. Oh, no, that's just an ad. The user may also experience impaired depth and time perception, with distorted perception of the size and shape of objects, movements, color, sound, touch of their own body image. Okay, so this all seems not that great, honestly. Like, the trip doesn't seem to be that fun. An experience with LSD is referred to as a trip. Acute, disturbing psychological effects are known as a bad trip. These experiences are lengthy, with the effects of higher doses lasting for 6 to 12 hours, and it may take 24 hours to return to a normal state. So let's carry on with that. Let's keep going down the bad route of LSD, right? Not only is it used in illegal American products, but also it can have some bad effects. So I pulled up some articles here. Let's look at this fun one. A man took LSD and fell in a lake at Disneyland Paris. He was found naked and confused hours later. This was written September of 2019 by Antonia Nori Farzan on the Washington Post. It says, the Swiss tourist had planned the trip of a lifetime, taking LSD when on a vacation at Disneyland Paris. What could possibly go wrong? That sounds like a great vacation. Turns out plenty. As the 32-year-old engineer discovered this past weekend, he wound up in jail on narcotics charges after disappearing into a pond and launching a 130-person search with helicopters and dogs, only to turn up hours later, naked and confused, on a quiet residential street about a mile away. Now, before I continue with this, how much LSD did this dude take? Holy moly. I mean, like, what they described on drugs.com is like a bad trip is, bad in your head for the most part, right? But this dude, he got undressed. He ran through Disneyland. He got in the lake. He went missing. Like, what happened? The misadventure began Friday evening when the man's 30-year-old girlfriend slipped him the hallucinogenic drug, according to Le Parisien. Almost immediately, he fell into a man-made lake in Adventureland near Captain Hook's pirate ship and the menacing grimace of Skull Rock from Peter Pan. When he didn't resurface, his girlfriend grew nervous. At around 8:30 p.m. Friday, the park began to close up for the night, and she alerted staff that he was still missing. So wait, hang on. He fell into a man-made lake in Adventureland, and he just didn't pop back out? He didn't get out of the lake? Or did he go swimming into the lake? It says he fell. But his girlfriend's right there, I assume also on drugs. So maybe that's how he got lost. The French newspaper didn't indicate whether the woman had also taken LSD, but did note that she did not seem to be in possession of all her means. Of course she's also on LSD. The couple have not been named in French media accounts in accordance with European privacy laws. For hours, worried Disneyland employees combed the park, but there was no sign of the Swiss engineer. He hadn't climbed onto the pirate ship, or hopped onto the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Peril ride, or hauled himself onto Pirates Beach. The search party came to include 10 divers, 10 policemen, 30 firefighters, and 80 Disneyland Paris employees. By then, it had grown dark, making it harder for them to peer into the lagoon circling Adventureland, and dogs and police helicopter with a thermal camera were brought in for backup. Jeez. This is a crazy manhunt, and it's kind of weird that it's all happening at Disneyland. I'd assume that when did this happen? This happened in 2019, right? Couldn't they check the cameras and find out where this fool went? Anyway, earlier the next morning, as the search continued, a 44-year-old man driving home from work came across an odd sight in the town of Chessy, a little more than a mile from Disneyland Paris. I came face to face with a naked man, the driver, who asked only to be identified as Benoit. He was walking in the middle of the road. He did not have a centimeter of clothes on him, and he was barefoot. So hang on. I'm confused. This dude took LSD, hopped into a lake within Disneyland Paris, and then his girlfriend lost him because she's an idiot on drugs as well. And then he managed to get out of Disneyland, get out of his clothes, end up a mile away, and then some other dude found him. I stopped, got out of the car, and went to meet him. I wanted to know what a naked man was doing 300 meters from my home. Yeah, that's understandable. The nude man, who by then was completely dry, had scratches all over his arms and legs. He didn't remember anything. Somewhat problematically, he also didn't speak French. That's a problem in the heart of Paris. Eventually, the two realized that they could communicate in English, and the mysterious naked man explained that he had taken LSD as part of a bet that he had made with friends, and that his girlfriend was probably worried. Benoit offered to call her, but the man was also unable to remember the number. This fool is useless. He's an engineer. Freaking Swiss. With his initial apprehension dissipating, Benoit realized that the man was harmless and also horribly lost. He put the stranger in his car and ran inside his house to get a pair of rugby shorts and a t-shirt so he could cover himself up. Then he dropped the passenger off at the park's edge, having somehow gathered that the man's strange journey had begun at Disneyland Paris. They found him at 1:15 a.m., and he and his girlfriend were arrested for narcotics use. But authorities evidently felt the couple had been through enough because they were released Saturday afternoon after spending less than a day in jail. The newspaper reported that both received a rappel à la loi for drug use, which roughly translates to a reminder of the law, so like a citation, I guess. The citation, which doesn't get added to a person's official criminal record, is typically handed out when a prosecutor chooses not to press charges. Man, Paris is like, or France is, they're nice. Look at that. Disneyland Paris, likewise, was unfazed by the incident. Park official told La Parisienne that the hours-long search didn't disrupt their regular operations or a 5K race that took place the same evening. The visitors did not even realize that there was a problem. Okay, so it wasn't like a crazy manhunt. It was just like, hey, y'all seen that dude that fell into the lake for a couple hours? And he doesn't remember anything, apparently. So, initial reports about the disappearance at least solved one mystery for Benoit, who had been wondering about the chain of events that led to a severely confused naked man to materialize in front of his car. It was my wife who, seeing the article, explained to me what had happened. Okay, so I didn't get out of this article what I thought I was going to get, which was him explaining what happened during that time. Y'all couldn't interview that fool? Anywho, I have one more. Now, this one seems incorrect to me. Okay, based on what I've read about LSD thus far in this episode. This says, video. Surveillance cameras capture man accused in LSD-fueled rampage at a police shooting in Bodega Bay. New shocking videos have been released of a San Francisco man going on an LSD-fueled rampage before being shot by Sonoma County Sheriff's deputies in Bodega Bay on the 4th of July. An LSD-fueled rampage. 32-year-old Betty Coffey, a Stanford graduate and engineer at YouTube. Okay, hang on. Both of these stories are about engineers. I didn't realize that when I chose them. I just put LSD news, and these came up. But that's fascinating. Okay. He was shot by deputies 3 times while driving a truck he allegedly stole from a neighborhood security guard. He's facing 2 counts of attempted murder, 3 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, and carjacking after going on a drug-fueled rampage. Okay, hang on. He stole the truck. He's facing 2 counts of attempted murder. Okay. The features several new and never-before-seen video clips, including calls between Coffey's friends, 911 dispatch. According to investigators, Coffey and 5 friends had rented a house. According to investigators, Coffey and 5 friends had rented a house in Bodega Bay for the long July 4th weekend. Oh, this is from ABC 7 News, written on July of 2019. Okay. Oh, my God. You know, news websites are straight up garbage. And I go on them all the time. I'm always reading the news, constantly. And they always suck. There's ads everywhere. I can't get anything that I can barely even read the article half the time. Anyway. Coffey's friends told investigators that he consumed 2 hits of LSD and became delusional. They were able to calm him down, but a short time later, Coffey took 2 additional hits of LSD, and that's when things got out of control. Okay, I see. He went too hard in the paint. Friends told investigators Coffey tried to leave the house around 8 p.m., punched a woman at the house, stabbed a man with a pencil, and choked another man. He got out of the house, into his rental car, and backed into a parked car before crashing into the garage of the rented house and then running down the street. The 911 call featured in sheriff's video occurred at that time. "We're really worried about him," pleads an unidentified friend to the dispatcher. The friend then tells the dispatcher that Coffey had threatened suicide, saying he thought he was already dead and that nothing mattered. "We thought it was just, drugs," explained the friend. Okay. I pulled these articles up in order to show, the bad stuff about LSD, right? And I guess this is what can happen if you take too many hits of acid, but it also seems like this is on the extreme. So I'm gonna stop reading here. The link is below if you wanna continue this story. I kind of don't care. Homie did a bunch of drugs, got shot. What I want to know now, though, is about microdosing. I've heard a lot about the positive effects of LSD, right? That it can help, maintain your mood and your depression, your serotonin levels, and that if you take very, very, very small amounts, that it can help to balance you out. So as soon as this article pulls itself up, oh, my internet's out. Okay, and we're back. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the microdosing effects of LSD, because it turns out that if you don't take 4 tabs at a time, if you take very, very small doses, it can be much more beneficial. This is from the Chicago University Medicine website, usechicagomedicine.org. Study measures the effects of LSD microdosing on mood in healthy individuals. This is from June of 2019, written by Gretchen Rubin. Researchers at the University of Chicago Medicine have initiated studies to test the idea that microdosing of the psychedelic drug LSD elevates mood. Their first study was designed to identify a suitable dose for repeated dosing in patients. In this study, they examined the effects of 3 low doses of LSD on mood, behavior, cognition, and physical function in young adult volunteers. They volunteered. They didn't just grab them off the street. Understanding the acute effects of repeated low doses of LSD in healthy adults is a first step to investigating the effects it may have on individuals with depression, said the study's senior author, Harriet DeWitt, PhD. The recent phenomenon of microdosing LSD to improve mood and cognitive function has received widespread coverage in the press. But these accounts, mostly self-reported and anecdotal, have not yet been tested with modern clinical research methods. The use of LSD as an antidepressant in combination with psychotherapy was studied in the 1950s and 60s, but many of those studies were performed without adequate control groups. Yeah, because they were just like, yoink, you coming with me, take this tab. Let's see if I can control your mind. DeWitt's team looked at the mood-altering physiological and behavioral impact of 3 very low doses, 6.5, 13, and 26 micrograms of LSD, in 20 healthy young adults in a double-blind, placebo-controlled setting. 4 8-hour sessions took place in a comfortable private room equipped with a couch, table, television, and computer for testing. During each peak of the drug's effects, study participants completed mood questionnaires and behavioral tasks assessing emotions and cognition. Cardiovascular measures and body temperature were also assessed. Ratings on the questionnaires demonstrated that single low doses of LSD produced very mild feelings on ratings of feeling an effect or liking the effect. The drug did not alter the subject's performance on measures of cognition, heart rate, or body temperature. The study's authors concluded that 13 micrograms is the optimal low dose to use repeatedly in testing the idea that microdosing improves mood. So I'm guessing at these doses that you're not feeling the hallucinogenic effects of LSD, but just it's just tickling your serotonin receptors and stuff, right? It's just tickling it to elevate your mood a little bit, which is interesting. The results from this investigation set the stage for further research to determine if low doses of LSD can safely improve mood in patients with depression. A follow-up study, now underway and seeking funding, is testing the effects of repeated doses of the drug in individuals who report symptoms of depression. This could lead to development of novel treatments for the disorder. Additional authors on the study, acute, subjective, and behavioral effects of microdoses on LSD in healthy human volunteers, include these people: Anya Burchard, Scott Scheppers, Michael Bremer, and Royce Lee. Okay, this is a relatively short article. I thought that it would be a bit longer, but as of last year, looked like on the up and up, and if they're looking for volunteers, maybe I'll hop in there. Let's cure this. Let's cure this depression, baby. No more missed episodes. All right. So I think the last thing I want to look at is Reddit. You know what it is, all right? This is r/LSD, okay? This is the Reddit thread for people who like LSD. Actually, the Reddit thread says, a kind, open-minded community dedicated to lysergic acid diethylamide. No sourcing. Please read all rules for posting. All right, blah, 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 blah. So I pulled up this thread, which is a question. Do you get offended when someone is biased against LSD or other psychedelics and then confronts you about it or calls you names for taking it? They go on to say, I'm curious how strong people's feelings are about LSD. I akin this treatment to being called a junkie. My opinion, as long as you are practicing harm reduction and taking it responsibly, you shouldn't let these terms bother you. If it somehow bothers you, perhaps you are inclined to be unhealthy with your drug use. What do you all think? Is it an injustice to be confronted about this, or does it depend on how they go about it and their word choice? The top reply says, my dad always says I'm going to get addicted, and it'll be almost impossible to quit. I've told him that LSD is a very unaddictive substance that can be even used to treat addiction, but he doesn't really listen. He even drinks nearly every day. Then somebody else replies, always makes me laugh when smokers or drinkers preach about addictions or how much LSD or shrooms will F you up. As for addiction, I feel I'm addicted to the person I am when I microdose. Ah, interesting. I'm addicted to the person I am when I'm on this drug, as opposed to the drug itself. Yeah. I feel that. Somebody else said, I don't go around telling everyone what drugs I do in my own time, so it's never a problem. If you feel the need to do that, then you open yourself up to that criticism. And you probably do sound like a junkie to people who aren't interested in that type of drug use. And someone replied to that and said, just by association on here was enough. Spillover from Florida medical cannabis. Pot's okay. LSD is not. Okay. So the LSDers, they're out there tripping and taking little trips and sometimes big trips, but overall, they don't think that their drug use is a problem or that addicting. Also, on that drugs.com article, they didn't say anything about LSD being particularly addictive. There are some health hazards here. There's those flashbacks. Flashback occurs suddenly, often without warning, usually in people who hallucinogens chronically or have an underlying personality problem. Healthy people who only use LSD occasionally may also have flashbacks, so it's just a part of it. You're tripping, and you're a good trip or bad trip. It seems like at some point later, days, weeks, months later, you might have a flashback to when you were tripping. And that just sounds like a memory to me. I don't know if it's necessarily a flashback. Bad trips and flashbacks are only part of the risks of LSD use. LSD users may also manifest relatively long-lasting psychoses, such as schizophrenia or severe depression. LSD produces tolerance, meaning the user needs greater doses of LSD to get the same high. Some users who take the drug repeatedly must progressively take higher doses to achieve the state of intoxication that they had previously achieved. This is an extremely dangerous practice given the unpredictability of the drug. Okay, so it might not be addictive, but you do kind of have to ramp up your use as you take it more and more often. Otherwise, you're going to have to take a tolerance break. Pot smokers know what I'm talking about. Extent of LSD use. Oh, okay. Here's some stats. The National Survey on Drug Use and Health in 2018 estimated that 5.6 million people aged 12 or older were past year users of hallucinogens, which include LSD and PCP and peyote and mescaline and psilocybin and mushrooms, ecstasy, ketamine, and salvia. Oh, my goodness. And DOT. So that means about 2% of the population of people aged 12 years or older have done a hallucinogen. The percentage of people aged 12 or older in 2018 who were past year hallucinogen users was higher than the percentages in 2015 and 2016, but was similar to the percentage in 2017. Rates of LSD use remain low among youth in the U.S. In 2018, it was estimated that 376,000 adolescents aged 12 to 17 were past year users of hallucinogens, which corresponds to about 1.5% of adolescents. The percentage of adolescents in 2018 who were past year hallucinogen users was lower than the percentages in 2015 and 2017. That's interesting that they're surveying these people so young. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, when I was a kid, drugs were bad, right? We had the DARE program. The cop came into the school. He was like, drugs are bad. Don't do drugs. Somebody offers you drugs, say no. Just say no to drugs. And then I got to college, and I was like, bro, drugs ain't as bad as you think they are, you know? So me as a young kid doing drugs was not a thing. But for kids in my school, it definitely was. You know, I seen them little hood rats out on the courtyard, you know? They're on drugs right now. I could see it. But I don't think that it was rampant. And I don't think that they were using hallucinogens, you know? I think they were huffing paint or smoking pot or drinking alcohol. You know, that was the main thing. I don't think LSD or mushrooms were being used a lot back in my school days. Oh, there's treatment. Okay. Treatment for LSD use. Let's end with this. Once a decision is made to obtain treatment, there are several steps to take. Okay, speak to a healthcare provider to help direct you to reliable sources of help, monitor your progress. There's talk therapy and group counseling may be an option to help you understand your behaviors. Keep your appointments. All right, so this is I thought it was like treatment for if you overdose or if you take too much. Work to find new hobbies and interests that will take your mind off of drug use. Consider a volunteer opportunity. This is how to get off drugs. I thought it was something to bring you down in case the LSD was too much. All right. So that's it. That's LSD. I feel like I learned a lot, but not necessarily everything. I do kind of want more details about those MK Ultra experiments and how the users performed. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I didn't read the Wikipedia article. But let me just look here. Here are some more adverse effects of LSD. All right, it says, of the 20 drugs ranked according to individual and societal harm by David Nutt, LSD was third to last, approximately 1/10 as harmful as alcohol. The most significant adverse effect was impairment of mental functioning while intoxicated. So it's just like while you're on it, you're pretty fucked up, like more fucked up than anything else. But for the most part, everything after that, aside from the flashbacks, is pretty normal and fairly healthy, it looks like. Although, LSD may trigger panic attacks or feelings of extreme anxiety, known familiarly as a bad trip. Review studies suggest that LSD likely plays a role in precipitating the onset of acute psychosis in previously healthy individuals, with an increased likelihood in individuals who have a family history of schizophrenia. There is evidence that people with severe mental illnesses like schizophrenia have a higher likelihood of experiencing adverse effects from taking LSD. So if your brain is sick and you're taking LSD, it kind of just makes your brain sicker, not necessarily better, it looks like. The mutagenic potential of LSD is unclear. Overall, the evidence seems to point to limited or no effect at commonly used doses. Studies showed no evidence of teratogenic or mutagenic effect. So if you're taking LSD and you have a kid, your kid's not going to be like have LSD powers or anything like that. So that's good to know. Oh, okay, here we go. Addiction. Tolerance to LSD builds up with consistent use. The NIH states that LSD is addictive, while most other sources state it is not. A 2009 textbook states that it rarely produces compulsive use. A 2006 review states it is readily abused but does not result in addiction. So I think it's more like a dependency rather than a body addiction. It's just like, I like this and I'm gonna keep using it. I do that with several things. All right. That's the end of this episode, you guys. We learned a lot about LSD today. Hope you know more now than you did before. I think that employers, cover your ears. I think I might try some of this. At some point in my life. Especially the microdosing aspect of it. I think that mood elevator seems to be much more compelling to me than the straight up, hey, take this and you are either going to have a good trip or a bad trip. And one is really good and one is really, really bad. Whereas on the microdosing side, it's like, hey, if you take this, you're probably just going to feel a little bit nicer than you did before. And that's my kind of day, That's the trip I want to go on. All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Andre Knows Everything. I've been Andre. You can follow me at Andre Morton Jr. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Facebook. You can follow me on all those places. Ask me questions. Leave comments down below. Let me know what you thought of this episode, what you think of LSD. If you've taken it, let me know what your thoughts on it are. And, we'll go from there. Let me know where to get it to. All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening. That's been it. I now know more today than I did yesterday. Bye.